The minority has described the judgment as a judicial support for the controversial e-levy. Ningo Prampram MP Sam George and MP for Sagnerugu ABA Fuseni have all vowed to prevent the First Deputy Speaker from voting in protecting the sanctity of Parliament if need be.
For me, I cannot for the life of me be part of what I would deem an illegality, which will be that the person presiding in the House will take part in a vote he's pretending over. And so I do not know what position my leadership will take or my party will take, but my principled position is one that states that anyone presiding, be it Mr. Speaker or any of his two deputies, has absolutely no business taking part in the vote on the floor of the House. And we will employ every legal means within the parliamentary procedure to ensure that this long time tested practice of Parliament, which is 30 years old this year, will be upheld. Until the Lord Justices decide to start expunging parts of the Constitution, like 1045, for us to see that the application of the law is not skewed and imbalanced. I do not see why anyone who has a conflict of interest should be allowed to vote. Because 1045 says you have a conflict, do not vote. Why did the Lord Justices go silent on the standing orders of Parliament that say that a chairman of a committee does not have a vote? A chairman of a committee in Parliament does not have an original vote. So why are they not saying that that is also a deprivation of his constituents? I'm suggesting that I will protect the independence of Parliament from any interference by any other arm of government. We have stood up to the executive. We will stand up to any other arm that seeks to interfere. Or I will stand up to any other arm of government that seeks to interfere in the work of Parliament. And I can tell you that I am sure most of my colleagues are of like mind, because this is a dangerous slope. Tomorrow, you would have someone go to court and then the Supreme Court may also rule and say that they are holding someone criminally liable for comments he made on the floor of the House. This is a Pandora's box we would not and should not open. The last time Joe Wise tried to stand from his seat to cast the vote, I was polling agent for the NDC. You remember what happened? My position hasn't changed.
You resisted.
Our anthem enjoins us to resist oppressors' rule.
It's a very farcical, shameful, politically motivated ruling by the judiciary.
No,
but the
Supreme Court is independent.
Master, this is just theory. In practice, their conduct doesn't show so. And it's indicating clearly by the rulings that they are consistently churning out that they are reducing themselves to political appendages.
This is
and this particular ruling is farcical. My brother, even go and read Article 102.
Right.
It says clearly, even apart from the person presiding, the quorum is constituted by the members, 1/3 of the members on the floor. Okay? They are tasked as the organ of government to interpret the law. No argument about that. But it is not their duty. It's not their duty to misinterpret the law, to mischievously twist the law to suit their own interests.
No,
they have no such authority. Yes, they have no authority to do so. I say it. And
if the e-levy is
now are we going to treat the First Deputy Speaker as a member of Parliament or a speaker, so that when he sits in the chair, we will treat him as a former member of Parliament and not the speaker?
And I'm asking you if the e-levy is tabled before the House
because you see,
for consideration.
Because I'm just asking,
and he is going to partake in the vote.
I am telling you that our members will react accordingly, and I can tell you that nobody can stop us in this House from doing what we think is right and proper in the interest of our democracy.
And what is right and proper, sir?
That's when we get to the bridge, we cross it. I ask you, which court ruled that Parliament is a master of his own rules? Which court ruled on that? Is it not the same Supreme Court? And today the same Supreme Court can come and tell us that the standing orders of the House must be thrown away. The same Supreme Court. Okay? Look at the double standards. If you have these kinds of rulings coming from the judiciary, are they protecting the Constitution of this republic? The Constitution says that somebody presiding cannot be part of a quorum. If anybody says he's part of a quorum, that person is in error. And that person is flouting the Constitution. And anything that flouts the Constitution, we will not allow that to stand. We will resist it. If anything in our judgment flouts the Constitution, we will resist it.
Let's do some more. This Joe Ghartey is former Attorney General of Ghana and also a former Deputy Speaker of Parliament. He's currently an MP as well, and it will be good to hear his perspective on this latest judgment by the Supreme Court. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Joy News Prime. What do you make of this ruling from the Supreme Court? You have been former Attorney General, former Deputy Speaker, and still a Member of Parliament. Well, we seem to have some difficulty connecting with the MP for Takoradi there, I beg your pardon, Esikado, who is also the former Attorney General and a former Deputy Speaker. But the MP for Adansi Asokwa, Katie Hammond, has been...
What we have is the standing orders. Now, standing orders, the Supreme Court is telling us part of it is even unconstitutional. We keep making all the fetish of that's not standing orders. We are the masters of what? We are masters of nothing. We are servants of the Constitution because we are part of the democratic system. And we all go by the supreme law of the country, which is the Constitution. It is the Constitution which created this House. It's the Constitution which created the judiciary. It's the Constitution which created the executive. What is this noise about? We are the masters of. You are masters of your what? The law is very clear. They don't abide by the supreme law of the country. They can please themselves. I haven't got time for that. What are you going to do? To fight? We've been fighting enough. I think it's about time that somebody told them that enough is enough. You haven't I told you. Let the Supreme Court settle this matter. The Supreme Court settle, then we all know what to do. They settle it now. They won't abide by. What will they do? They'll come here and well, how are they going? You're making me angry.
No,
you're making me angry.
That's the statement. They will present.
How are they going to do? They're going to fight?
They'll prevent him from voting.
You see. They are talking about class of people. I think these are the kind of people. I took over a group of people. That's the mentality. Now, if they're saying there is a close way, it is no. I'm going to have to talk Italian now. If you, it's going to be Italian. You press it, I'm speaking French or Italian. You know what I mean? You're upsetting me. I mean, they're going to the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land is spoken, and you sit down there and say that I'm going to resist it. Two options: go to the Supreme Court, ruling, not happy with it, review. When the review is done, that's about it. If it's reviewed for you or reviewed against, that is the end of it in a democratic system. It does not make sense for anybody to suggest that a member of parliament, because he's presiding, ceases to be a member of parliament for Bakwai. For Famina. It doesn't make sense.
Let's go back to Zoom now. Joe Ghartey joins us. He's MP for Esikado Ketan constituency and also a former Deputy Speaker himself. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Joy News Prime. What do you make of the ruling? We thought that the Supreme Court's decision will definitely bring finality to this, but it appears that it is rather, bringing up some more controversy. What do you make of the latest decision? Well, we seem to be having a problem with the connection there to Joe Ghartey, who was a former Deputy Speaker himself. We want to take his view on this because many thought that once the Supreme Court had ruled on this issue, it was definitely going to bring finality to the issue. But then the minority has already described this as a travesty of justice. But more MPs have been reacting to this latest decision. Let's hear from the MP for Subin, Eugene Boache, who says that the Supreme Court must cite NDC MPs for contempt if they indeed fail to comply with their decision.
The standing order is not bigger than the Constitution of Ghana. The mother document, the primary law of this country is the Constitution of Ghana. And that is why we went to the Supreme Court for a true and proper interpretation of those two provisions, and they have ruled. And I wasn't expecting the Supreme Court to rule anyway apart from what they've ruled. So for anybody to suggest that they are the guys at its honor, these are very harsh words. And some people may probably be dragged to the Supreme Court for contempt.
They should cite them for contempt?
Yes, yes. I've just seen another Facebook post by Honorable Sam George.
Right. He says he will resist it.
Yes, you see.
If the Speaker tries to vote, they will resist it.
You see, this is crime of high treason. They should read the Constitution 2, 3, 4, and 5. Articles 2, 3, 4 and 5. I don't know whether you want me to, go touch on it. Any person who refuses to abide by the rule of the Supreme Court is akin to high treason.
Let's go to the phone lines now. Joe Ghartey joins us this time on phone. Thank you so much, sir. Hopefully you can hear me now and the connection is better. What do you make of the ruling by the Supreme Court?
I totally agree with it.
You agree with the ruling?
Yeah, I agree with it. I made the same argument on the floor on the day, I think the day the budget was passed, one of those 30 days. I made the same argument on the floor. That the speaker and the deputy speakers are not the same. And we shouldn't make the mistake of, I've heard people say it's like a referee, it's like a judge. We shouldn't equate these positions. Every game, if I can call it a game, has its rules and you abide by them. The speaker is not a referee. The speaker is a speaker. The Constitution states what the speaker can do and states what the deputy speakers can do. Don't forget that the speaker cannot be a member of parliament. So Right Honorable Duajao, when he became a speaker, he resigned from the position that day before we swore him in as a speaker. And so clearly, the framers of the Constitution did not intend the speaker and the deputy speakers to be one and the same person. And the framers of the Constitution, they framed it doing what they were doing. When they came to one section, they talked about the person presiding. When they came to another section, they said different things. If you look at 102 and 104, they don't say the same thing. 102 and 104 even follow each other so closely. It's not as if it's Article 1 and Article 99, and you can say that maybe they made a mistake. So I totally agree with the ruling of the court. I've always held the position that the deputy speaker must be able to vote. In any event,
yes.
When it comes to voting, what is the role of the presiding? When it comes to voting, it's usually by voice vote, unless, of course, we are choosing a speaker.
Yeah.
One person say, those who are for the motion say aye, people shout aye. Those who are against the motion say no, people shout no. Then the speaker says that either the ayes have it or the nays have it. At that point, any single member of parliament, anybody can get up and say to the speaker, I disagree with you. You said the ayes have it, I think the noes have it. Or you said the noes have it, I think the ayes have it. When the person disagrees with the speaker, then we must go for a division, head count, or whatever. Another stage, another method of voting, which every individual person who is entitled to a vote can vote. At that time, what is the role of the speaker? The counting is by the clerks. The speaker is not even, as it were, the returning officer in the strict sense, like if you even look at in terms of elections. The counting is by the clerks, and they hand it over to the speaker to announce. So how does the speaker voting at that time, how does it in any way impact on his partiality or otherwise?
Well, your colleagues on the other side have said this creates a bit of a conflict, especially when it comes to the provision that speaks about the voting right of a chairman of a committee, for instance. How do you reconcile that?
I don't need to reconcile it because the voting right of a chairman of a committee is in the standing orders, which is a fair legislation. We should bear in mind that there's a hierarchy of laws in Article 11 of the Constitution. We should bear in mind that the Constitution is the highest law of the land, and any law which is inconsistent with its provisions is void to the extent of its inconsistency. That is why the Supreme Court today has struck out provisions of the standing orders as being inconsistent. There's nothing.
And so, is it your view that this ruling also affects that standing order?
Unless the Supreme Court says so. When the Supreme Court is interpreting provisions of the Constitution vis-a-vis other subsidiary laws, be it an act of parliament or standing orders or some subsidiary legislation like an LR or something, you don't do inference in those circumstances. People take specific provisions to the court, and by virtue of that specific provision, the court rules on it. The court does not engage in this kind of academic exercise or official expedition. Okay, let us look. Is there any other thing that is affected by it? No. The court doesn't do that. The court answers a specific question. It doesn't go on a frolic of its own. So, as far as I'm concerned, the chairman of a committee is akin, in some cases, they give you some power, the powers of the speaker, but it's not the same as a speaker. When they say you are like, it doesn't mean you are the same. It says that, so let us be careful. Let us be developing a constitution. Let us look at what it says with regard to specific provisions. I ask you a question. If the speaker and the deputy speakers were the same, why isn't the deputy speaker don't resign when they are being deputy speakers? Why is that only the speaker has to resign?
Well, Mr. Ghartey, your colleagues on the other side have also raised the question about what they think is undue interference by the judiciary in the affairs of the executive when it declared that standing order as unconstitutional. They think that the judiciary shouldn't be interfering in that process.
That is the most regrettable statement that I've heard. The Constitution does not talk about supremacy of Parliament. It deals with supremacy of the Constitution. When you go to some countries, they say Parliament is sovereign, so Parliament can make any law. In Ghana, Parliament is not sovereign. Parliament is subject to the Constitution. So are you telling me that if Parliament passes an act of Parliament and somebody takes it to court that this is unconstitutional, that will amount to interfering with Parliament? The Constitution says that we cannot create a one-party state. So if we in Parliament agree that the MPs that are there now, we want to remain there, we don't want anybody to challenge us. So we are coming together, forming a new political party, and we are going to be in power forever. And somebody takes it to Parliament, to the Supreme Court. Can we say that the person is interfering in the laws of Parliament? Are you saying that Parliament has all power to make all laws? Any law which flouts the Constitution? For example, the Constitution says quite clearly that elections should be every 4 years. Then Parliament says that no, we think that people have been arguing, they think that it should be only one term for 7 years. Because 4 years is too long. And then if we speak, if the judiciary is interfering, how is there interference in this?
Well, we'll leave it here for now. I'm grateful that you could join us. That's a former Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joe Ghartey. He's also MP for Esikado Ketan constituency and a former Attorney General. He's been speaking to us about the latest Supreme Court ruling. Now